Alright guys, it is July 2018 and welcome to my YouTube channel. From here on out, I'm going to be focusing this channel on moto vlogging with a cinematic spin. It's going to be a little bit different than the typical moto vlog. It's not going to be that GoPro on the head shot all the time while riding around. This is going to be something more entertaining to watch, hopefully, and I'm looking forward to having you guys come along with me on the journey. And today, for episode 1, I want to talk about how I ride a Sportster. Welcome back. That was a pretty cool intro, huh? I want to thank my wife for helping me make that. Without any further ado, let's head outside. I'll introduce you to my bike. This is it, 2016 Harley-Davidson Iron 883. So, I wanted to sit down today and go through a bunch of reasons as to why I ride a Sportster and why you might want to ride one too. So, one of the first points I want to make is that there seems to be a negative connotation associated with riding a Sportster. And whatever reason, people think that it means that you're either a girl and it's a girl bike, or that you just are too scared for a bigger engine, or maybe you're just a short guy and you need to be riding a small bike. I gotta tell you, just watch the intro from my videos. You see me riding on the Sportster. I'm 6'3", and I look perfectly proportional to it. It's not a small bike, especially when you consider it against other brands from around the world. Harleys are big bikes. Even their smaller models are big bikes. And that's another thing. Why on earth does it matter what anybody else thinks? If you like to ride it, then that's all that matters. Who cares about all those big macho, 60-plus-year-old guys that ride around on their Harleys with their cut-off sleeves, leather chaps and leather vests, and follow the stigma that you have to be exactly one way if you ride a Harley. Who cares? And the second reason I ride a Sportster is the fact that Harley-Davidson came out with the Sportster model in 1957, and it has really not changed all that much since 1957. The motor's changed a couple of times, and some other basic modern technologies that have evolved throughout the process of the bike developing over the years, but the basic frame, the basic design, the premise, and the purpose have all remained basically the same since 1957. So I love that. And the current motor that is in the bike today is called the Evolution engine, or the Evo engine, and that motor came out in the 80s and literally has not changed since the 80s, other than the fact that it's moved from being a carburetor to fuel injection. And that motor is bulletproof. It is well known to go 150,000 miles, even longer if you maintain it well. And my particular bike is pretty oil tight, and I love it. I don't have any leaks, nothing, no problems ever. It's built like a tank. It's air cooled, so there's no maintenance involved with any sort of fluids or liquids that need to be changed out. It's awesome. I sit at stoplights all the time when it's out here in this Texas heat where it's 115 degrees. I ain't got no air blowing on my motor to be able to cool it off, and it just moves through it, no problem at all. Surprisingly, it gets great gas mileage. I average around 50 miles per gallon, and when you combine the fact that it's stupid powerful, got a ton of low-end torque out of each gear, and just fast, that's why it's a Sportster, plus it gets 50 miles per gallon, what is there to lose? That brings me to my third point, and that is the fact that there is an unbelievably crazy amount of aftermarket support for this bike. And you can find universal parts made for the Sportster line, that have worked with the Sportster line for years, that are still out there for sale. They're affordable because they've been around forever. The production costs to be able to make these accessories for Sportsters have just continued to drop because the model just stays the same, and that's awesome. A ton of the things on my bike were a result of being able to buy cheap aftermarket parts to be able to spruce it up and make it mine without having to cost hardly anything out of pocket. And that brings another good point up, the fact that Sportsters are unbelievably customizable. You can change out so many parts of it without hardly any effort. You can do it yourself real easy. It's like an old car. I used to own a 1971 Camaro, and that thing was so easy to work on because the parts were just interchangeable and easy to work with. And this thing is the same way. You know, I actually once, when I had that Camaro, that 1971 Camaro, before I sold it, I loved driving it around, but it was an old car. So you'd have things breaking pretty frequently that you'd have to keep maintaining and replacing and tuning things up. And it got me thinking, and I realized, man, it'd be really nice if you could buy a brand new classic car. I would love to be able to just have Chevrolet just make me a brand new classic car, and that way I could drive it around. It would be classic, but it would be new and nothing was going to break. And then I came across motorcycling, and as I fell in love with the idea of motorcycling, I realized that Harley Davidson is that. They still make brand new classic motorcycles. Their motorcycles from decades ago are basically the same thing you can buy today, with hidden modernization inside the motors and making everything run smoothly like a modern bike would, but with the look and style and design of a classic Harley. Nothing on that bike is plastic. I mean, the housings for all of the controls on the handles, on the handlebars, and the gas tank, the fenders, front and back, every component imaginable is made of solid metal, nothing plastic. I've ridden on other bikes from other manufacturers around the world, and it seems like even sometimes the gas tank is plastic, which just baffles me. You can just feel how cheap they are, how cheap everything is put together. Yeah, sure, they might run well and they might be incredibly reliable, but it's just so cheap. You tip that bike over and it's gonna just disintegrate into a million little plastic shards everywhere. Whereas this thing, you run it into a wall, there might be a few dents, but you can probably pop that dent out and be good to go. That's what's so cool about a Harley. And my fourth reason for wanting to ride a Sportster is the fact that it's easy to maneuver and quick. I mean, the low-end torque, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, the low-end torque on a Sportster, especially the 883 motor. They make an 883 and a 1200 in the Sportster line, and I have a 1200. My first bike was a 1200, and that thing could really fly. But the 883 is tuned in the gears to where every time you shift gears into the next gear and you crank on that throttle, you're gonna fly. The low-end torque coming out of the bottom of the gear is unlike anything. It is incredibly powerful and a whole lot of fun. And so you combine that with its lighter weight, its easier maneuverability, it's a relatively smaller size compared to other Harleys, and it's just a win-win. And finally, the most important and final reason that I ride a Sportster is the fact that I like it. And if you like one, there is no shame in going out and buying one and riding it yourself as well. Who cares what anybody else says or thinks? It doesn't matter. If you enjoy the way it rides, the way it looks, the way it feels, what it represents, then that's your choice. We've got to get the culture of motorcycling out of this dumpster of just everybody having to be the exact same way. God forbid you ride something other than a Harley, that only Harleys are real bikes. Yeah, sure, I ride a Harley, and I love the Harley for a lot of reasons having to do with its heritage and performance. But I have just as much respect for someone who's out there on a 500cc Kawasaki or a Triumph Bonneville. I love the Triumph Bonneville. I rode one, it was a ton of fun. Even scooters. I started out on scooters when I lived in Florida, and they're a ton of fun. So anybody on two wheels, I've got respect for you, because it's a tough decision to get out there and ride on two wheels amongst a bunch of four-wheel vehicles around you, having your feet sitting on the pavement when you're at a stoplight, and just that raw feeling of knowing you're exposed. But combine that with the awesome exhilaration of the wind in your face, your fists up in the wind, and just feeling like you're alive out there on the road, as opposed to sitting behind your wheel of your car, driving with your radio on, and you're zoning out, not even thinking about the drive. When you're on a motorcycle, you are tuned in with what's going on around you. You don't have any music going, you don't have any distractions, you're not on the phone, you are just in tune with the road and your bike. And there's something sort of raw and organic about that that makes traveling a lot more fun than what it is now with all the modernization of cars and how many cars there are on the road and taking highways instead of back roads. You know, there's a whole world out there of exploration and travel and just fun that you can truly experience in a better way on two wheels. I encourage you, if you like this video, if you are thinking about getting into motorcycling, if you're young, I'm 29, you know, I'm not some old guy riding a bike, I'm young, I'm a millennial, and I love riding a motorcycle. I love riding a Harley, and I have respect for others who don't ride Harleys but ride other motorcycles. As this is my first episode, I'm looking forward to sharing more with you guys as I move along. I'm going to be hopefully posting every week, and I would love it if you subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it if you thought it was useful, and look forward to meeting you guys again in the future. So until then, I hope you enjoyed my summarization of why I ride a Sportster, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Have a great week, guys. See ya.